Did AEW go too far with Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland in the unsanctioned steel cage match at AEW's All Out this past Saturday night? Well, we're here to talk about it. I'm going to break down my thoughts and everything surrounding this very, very controversial and very polarizing topic on did this match take it too far? Now, look, I'll say a lot has to be said about this match. But it wasn't as crazy as some of the Big Japan Pro Wrestling matches that I downloaded as a kid in MOV format, you know, with that jumpy, grainy VHS render that involved dry ice, piranhas, and cactus, and exploding barbed wire, and nails, and all that crazy stuff, man. Like, I did not think that it was, like, up to that, okay? I think that things like syringes, you know, and real cinder blocks is a little insane, I must say. The syringes more so, I mean, they're safer, I guess. They're not like the bed of syringes that I've seen in other matches in independent wrestling and in some backyard wrestling matches. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, okay? So I'm a little desensitized for those that have not gone down those rabbit holes, for those that have not seen FMW, Big Japan Pro Wrestling, CZW, XPW, IWA Mid-South, that haven't seen some of the backyard wrestling that's available on the internet. If you have a YouTube and you can hit the search engine and look that up, then this would have probably been the mega of that. It would have really shocked you. It really turned you off. It would have really been a shell shock for you, for those that aren't familiar with that stuff.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And even for those that are familiar with that stuff, or maybe aren't familiar with that stuff, to some it's still off-putting. It's like, why is this in my wrestling? And I totally understand that. That's why I love that wrestling is very objective. It's a very subjective thing. It's like, depends on your taste, which is why some people can watch Will Ospreay and Pac's match, and some are going to say that match wasn't for them. I thought it was an awesome match. I thought it really stole the show. I like their chemistry. I like the way that those guys performed. I've always been a fan of Pac, right? So some people will look at that match and go, it was too flippy. It was too crazy, whatever. Some people aren't going to like the street fight between Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander because they don't want to see women do what they did to each other, and they really brutalize each other. I thought it was a super fun match. For this match, it's really got a lot of people talking. It's really controversial because people thought that it went too far. I saw a couple of homages. I'll be honest with you. First things first, I saw an homage to Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA from Starrcade 1985. I don't know if anybody else saw that. That was the year I was born, okay? So I watched that match a little later on, but I was a big fan of it. It was crazy AF. It really was. When I was a kid and I was watching, I was like, whoa, this is pretty intense. And I think my dad was like, this might be too intense. You need to turn this off. And I was like, no. Let's see what's going on. I think if I remember correctly, Tully Blanchard hit Magnum TA with a wooden chair, and a piece of the wood shattered, broke off. He used that piece and he started stabbing. I think Magnum TA used that piece of the wooden chair and started stabbing Tully Blanchard with it. And Tully was bleeding all over the place, and Magnum had a moment where he wondered, what did he do? Like, what had he done? You know, like he was like, what have I done? You know, and so that, and you know, there's been a lot of comparisons to Magnum TA from Hangman Adam Page. So I thought that he was doing his homework. I thought that was a nice homage. Another one that I saw was from a lesser known match, right? Because a lot of people talk about Undertaker and Mankind's Hell in a Cell match from the King of the Ring as being like the match on that card. A lot of people don't remember that after that match, it was not the main event of the pay-per-view, that after that match, Stone Cold Steve Austin defended his WWF World Championship against Kane in a First Blood match, and they brought the Hell in a Cell down, and Kane was holding Steve Austin in place, hoping that the cage would crush his skull. And it was like this very intense moment, especially coming off of the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker and Mankind. We were like, whoa, this is really intense. It was like one after another. It was like hitting you blow for blow. It was very exciting, very suspenseful at that time. And if you were paying attention to Hangman and Swerve, they were doing a very similar thing with the cage at that point, bringing it down, trying to crush their heads and fighting over the jockeying for position, if you will. So they did some throwbacks. They did some callbacks for historians to pay attention to. You know, so somebody was doing their homework for sure. But I, you know, and the thing is, they were building to this. You know, I don't think that this is something that they should be doing all the time. I don't think this match should be done like this again. I think inevitably what we're building to at this point is an exploding barbed wire match. Just to give you a warning, okay? If you think this was the end of their feud, you're sorely mistaken, okay? It's really going to lead to an exploding barbed wire ring match, right? That's where you're going, and this is an opportunity for Tony Khan to have a second opportunity of really making use of that exploding ring and doing justice, because the first one that they had with Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega was pretty much an utter disaster. It was embarrassing to a large degree, and they were trying to get over that. Plus, I personally felt like Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega, their feud wasn't on par to deserve that type of a match. But however, Hangman Page and Swerve, that is on par to deserve an exploding ring match. I mean, right? If you're going to do that, I mean, you can't really. How are you going to top? Like, how are they going to top the Texas Death Match? Well, some would argue they topped it. So how do you top this match? You do an exploding ring death match. I mean, that's how you top it. I know guys of like fans of Jim Cornette, fans of modern classic wrestling and hating modern wrestling are really gonna get like ill. They're gonna dry heave at the thought of that, but that's where they're moving to. This is a blood feud. This is a forever feud. This is something that is going to historically be talked about for a long time in professional wrestling. They are finding a way to etch themselves in history and be remembered for something, and that is hard to do in professional wrestling in 2024. Now, for those that are comparing like the feuds of the year, like what's one feud of the year versus the other feud of the year. So for Punk and McIntyre, that's like John Wick or Marvel. And I'll even give you Fast and the Furious, right? It's a big budget production. It's got all the glitz and the glamour. But Hangman and Swerve was like Quentin Tarantino movie. Robert Rodriguez, for a minute there. And then all of a sudden it became Saw. Okay? It became Hostile. You know what I mean? And I don't mean hostile like a Hostile City Showdown from ECW. I mean, it became hostile like the movie Hostile. It became gory. It became horror porn, right? It was a gore fest. It was a shock horror movie, right? And I think that they did that on purpose. And especially considering that a lot of people have been comparing the two feuds, that Tony Khan and the AEW and Hangman and Swerve, I'm sure, said, well, there's probably going to be a cage coming up in October between these two guys. Let's do a cage where there's no topping it. So when Punk and McIntyre have their Hell in a Cell match, yeah, they're going to be hard pressed to try to beat this match as far as what's being talked about, because they're talking about this match. So it's getting a lot of people. It's getting a topic of conversation, and I don't know if that's exactly the kind of conversation they want, because a lot of people are turned off. Even some AEW fans were turned off, but it is being talked about for better or for worse. But yeah, I think the point of the violence is to shock the crowd and make them feel things. But every time you do that, a certain segment of the populace will look at it the wrong way or take the trick the wrong way and try and emulate that. And I don't think that they should do that. I don't think that they should do it all the time. Tony Khan should not go to this well whenever he needs shock or whenever there's a crazy feud. This should be a one-on-one. It's like that movie in Major League. I'm trying to think of the quote.
Nice catch, Hayes. Don't ever fucking do it again.
That one, yes, that quote, yes, that's what I thought when I saw Tony Khan pull that match off. Very great. Don't ever do that again. But yeah, it was a psychological horror movie. The only American match from the big three that we could compare this match to was probably Sabu and Terry Funk, Born to be Wired. If you remember, that was in 1997. Sabu beat, I think Terry Funk was the ECW World Champion. He had just won at Barely Legal. And he faced Sabu in a barbed wire match. And at the ECW arena, they had wrapped so much barbed wire around each other that they got stuck together and they needed to be cut. The barbed wire needed to be cut. Hair needed to be cut. Flesh needed to be cut. And shirts and attire needed to be cut to pry themselves off of each other because they got stuck together. It was gruesome. It was one of the most insane matches at the time that we have ever seen in America. it was a shit show. It was amazing to see. It was very polarizing, like this match. So that wasn't for everybody. This wasn't for everybody, right? It was unsanctioned. I think the only way that they should really go, this feud has gone so far in violent and extreme direction, the blow off, I think, should be an all rules match where all rules are strictly enforced. You don't break the 10 count, you lose. Pulling of the hair, you lose. Close fist, you lose. Talk back to the ref, you lose. Use a weapon like a chair, table, or ring bell, come on, you lose. 4 referees for a single match, so no one misses anything. Instant replay is off, and the chance of all refs get distracted, in case all the refs get distracted, it's off. So an all rules match, go the Cactus Jack anti-ECW route, where he was anti-hardcore, and he was saying that he was trying to pry Tommy Dreamer from the extreme lifestyle and put him in like Olympic style matches and stuff. That's what they need to do. But definitely Icarus flew too close to the sun in this main event tonight. It definitely did. I didn't have a problem with it though, and I'll tell you the reason why I didn't have a problem with it is because AEW has got to do whatever they can. And in this match, it just wasn't thrown together for no reason. This wasn't Ian Rotten against Axel Rotten, and this definitely wasn't, John Zandig against, Sammy Callahan or something like that. It's some VFW or something with no build-up. These guys, Hangman Page blew up his childhood home. Swerve broke into his house, threw a shirt on his child, stalked him. They stapled each other. They put cinder blocks on each other. They drank each other's blood, or at least one drank the other's blood. This was a feud they're taking it to such extremes. They're definitely going film noir with professional wrestling and showing you that even though these two are not very liked because of what they're doing, it's a very human experience. There's no definitive good guy, no definitive bad guy. This is no cookie cutter comic book, Joseph Campbell, hero's journey type of a story. This is the story of two guys that are seeing how far they can take one another to one up and do everything they can up to killing the other person. We've already almost seen an unaliving with Jon Moxley attacking Bryan Danielson with the plastic bag, which was an homage to Terry Funk doing it to Ric Flair. If you're not aware, from the 80s, go back and check that out. They're really pushing the bounds of what, two guys that really hate each other can do legally in the ring, sanctioned or unsanctioned. I don't think this is my cup of tea at all, to be honest with you. I don't think this match could get your traditional star rating. I don't think this match can be compared to other matches, although, like I said, I would compare something like Sabu and Terry Funk to this, because up to that point we had never seen anything that extreme in the States, although we probably have, but I guess to that level, with that much coverage, right? So this match is widely covered, and a lot of people are talking about that. There's a lot of people are saying that it might ruin their television deals and stuff like that. I don't know if it's that big of a situation, to be honest with you. I think Hangman and Swerve could be trusted to go out and do a safe match. That cinder block being real, oh man, because they've used a lot of gimmick cinder blocks, but when that thing hit, it sounded like a gunshot. You knew it was real, and that got my heart going. I was like, holy shit, that's crazy, And I haven't felt like that in a wrestling match in a long time. So I do got to give them kudos to really pushing the boundaries. I don't know if I want to watch wrestling to be in anxiety about whether or not a wrestler is going to get seriously hurt. But the last time I really felt that way was probably, a Jeff Hardy ladder match, or Mankind getting thrown off the cell. I don't know if that's something I necessarily want to see all the time in professional wrestling, but it's been a while since I felt that way. Overall, though, I wasn't a huge fan of some of the links they went to, but I understand why they did. And I can't fault them. I can't say I'm not going to talk shit about the match. So if you came here thinking that I was going to talk shit about the match, I'm just not going to do that. However, the backyard wrestling aspect was something that was, I can understand why people would be turned off with the syringes, with the cinder blocks and those things like that. Like I'm surprised they didn't bring scissors out and try and cut each other's heads and stuff like that. And I really hope they don't. I really hope they don't. The exploding barbed wire cage death match, or not even a cage, just an exploding ring death match, I feel like is next for them. And I feel like that's the logical progression for this story. What else can they do? Where else could they go with it, right? I hope that we don't see either of those wrestlers for a long time. Swerve and Hangman should go away for a very long time. And then I heard MJF is doing a movie, so that's going to be even weirder to have those three guys off of AEW television, since they've been the central part of AEW television for a while now. But I do think that that Hangman and Swerve need to disappear for a while. And when they come back, they need to be different. They really do. I mean, you looked at that face on Hangman Page as he was leaving the ring. That was a man that lost all humanity. He delved into madness. And I think that they need to be different when they come back. And I think Tony Khan needs to reevaluate if he wants to bring them back. I think they need to talk about stuff like that. And I think that would add to the feud. I think that would add to the drama aspect of it all. And then when Swerve is allowed back, he can talk and talk about how crazy that match was, and Hangman could do the same. Like, a piece of him is gone now and he'll never come back because of that match. I think they really need to build that, because it was interesting, to say the least. And they could add to it. They could add so many elements to it. And so many elements can be added to the characters of Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page after something as crazy as that goes. So we'll see what they decide to do. I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts on the cage. Did you enjoy it? Was it a turnoff? You guys let me know in the comments. I'm so interested, and I'd love to have the conversation about you. Did you guys catch those little Easter eggs, those homages to Steve Austin and Kane and Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard? You guys let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out. And as always, you guys, stay tuned for more.